This is our Monday night meetup, and I am just going to turn it over to Beth. She is actually going to be talking tonight. In fact, I'm just going to let her tell you because it's a really interesting topic that she could go on and on about, but she's going to give us like a high level overview. So Beth, go ahead and take it away.
Can I share my screen?
You can. Let me make you the co-host. Make co-host. Yes. And you should be able to share your screen.
Lovely. So you might be seeing presenter view, and that's fine because I want you to see all the stuff. And this is I'm asking for a lot of grace. I had a very busy day today at work. So I hopefully will do this justice. So just a little bit about where I work. I work for Brand Trust. It is a market research and brand consulting company in Chicago. There's 39 of us, so it's not super huge, but we work for and do projects and market research for all of the major drug companies, AstraZeneca, Merck, GSK, and a lot of non-pharma work. GMC Truck is a recent one. You name it. We have done a lot. eBay, Facebook, oddly, or Meta is also one of our clients right now, which is super interesting. Anyway, so that is the basis of everything that we do is based in behavioral economics. When we do market research, we don't do the traditional kind that are surveys. We do what's called emotional inquiry. And it's something that my boss, Daryl Travis, developed as an interview style. And he wrote some books, and I'm happy to tell you about them. Emotional branding, big things you do, little things you say, a lot of psychology stuff. But I am the director of finance for the company. I am not one of the smart people that wrote this presentation. So all of the notes, the slides, everything that you see is developed by all my smart coworkers. So I give them all the credit. But they gave me very good notes. And so I'm just gonna kind of read through some of them. Like I said, we are just gonna kind of touch the surface on this. There may be some things you know, but at least we're putting names to it, so we don't feel like we're crazy or the people we're talking to are crazy or anything. And so it's just going to be high level. This is something we do for our clients, and we do it over 2 or 3 hours. So I'm condensing it into 30 minutes, but jump in anytime. So if I'm talking fast, it's just because I'm trying to get through it, but I still would love feedback. And if we don't get through all of it, I may do something else again. I've actually asked one of my coworkers, whose wife actually does MLM as well. Is it Zaya or the clothing? She does that. She used to do Young Living. And he is actually probably the one who knows most about this in our company. So I asked him if he would do something for us sometime. And I'm just waiting to hear back from him. So in a regular session, these are some answers that we would try and help our clients understand. And so you can see how they, just substitute plexus in any of these questions. But so why is behavioral economics, we'll call it BE for short, important for behavior change challenges, on down to how might we apply BE to current challenges within plexus and even our own personal lives. So again, I don't know that we'll come up with answers, but we're gonna touch on it anyway. So behavioral economics is the psychology behind economic decision making. And so it's interested in the same question that regular economics is, like market fluctuations, things like that. But economics assumes that people are rational. So where economics has formulas and charts and things like that, behavioral economics has scientific studies and clinical studies done to come up with their answers. So that its guiding principle is not numbers and charts, it is behaviors. And so we're going to talk about, and there are a list of behaviors in here. There's only 6, but they're some of the main ones. And again, I just want to touch on some of them. This guy, our company loves to read. So we have books galore, videos galore. But this guy is Dan Ariely, and he wrote a book. He wrote several, but one of them is Predictably Irrational. So if you're interested in some of this stuff, feel free to pick up a few of these books along the way. And he explains behavioral economics, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to play all the videos. Amy, if there's a good way for me to post a few video links somewhere, you guys can kind of watch it on your own time. But it's like a 4-minute video, but he explains kind of high level what behavioral economics is. But as an example, everybody knows you should eat better, but the prevalence of obesity is 42. So you can see where rationally people think I should eat better, but we are irrational in actually how we apply those thoughts. And I'll show you why. Same with exercise. People say I should exercise more. Only 23% of Americans exercise enough, according to the CDC. So some of the reasons why we make suboptimal, irrational decisions is that we possess limited cognitive resources. I'm sure you probably know that, but didn't know that's what it's called. We live in an attention economy. There are many decisions to be made, and it's exhausting, and our brains are not equipped to handle the load of making all of these decisions in a rational way. So it's not that we're lazy, even though maybe there is some of that, but we just have limited willpower. We have competing wants and desires, and our brains are predispositioned to certain kinds of rewards over others. We have limited memories, and we can forget or alter past experiences that may have helped us to make better decisions in the present. And we're not very good at decisions that are complex. So we take shortcuts, and these are called heuristics. You can look that one up. And the rule of thumb is all of these things. People like me do it. People aspire to be like, do it. Something worked before, do it again. So it just this is our shortcut, our brain's shortcut to making decisions. So this is the foundation here, though, for understanding how we make decisions. So 95% of the decisions that are made, that we all make, are totally non-conscious. Only 5% are conscious and are rational. So this is another author, Daniel Kahneman. He wrote Thinking Fast and Slow and some other things, but in that book is where he talks about this, and it's called a System 1 and a System 2. So System 1 is responsible for the non-conscious decision making. It's intuitive, and it orders, and it's order of magnitude, and it is intuitive, and it is orders of magnitude faster than our other system. I see. Our non-conscious works a lot faster than our conscious. That's what it's saying. So to give you an example, have you ever pulled into your driveway on the way home and wonder how you got home because you forgot the last 10 minutes? That's your non-conscious, and that's what is thinking so fast. System 2 is only responsible for 5% and works much slower. It rationalizes decisions that System 1 made for us. You can use this system when you're doing something less routine and more novel, like applying for a mortgage or learning a new language, or weighing pros and cons of very important decisions. That's when you would use your conscious more. And this is called the say-do gap. And the phenomenon that people often say they prefer or will do one thing, and then they do something else entirely. So it reveals the gap between system 1 and system 2. Hopefully I'm making sense so far. We're going to get to some more detail here. So in order to change some of these behaviors, you can think of your brain as the rider on the elephant, system 2, and that's the part of us that plans and problem solves. So the rider might be able to analyze and say, I want to do a certain thing or go a certain direction, but the elephant, so representing your non-conscious, is actually the thing that provides the power for that change or that journey. And so if the rider and the elephant ever disagree, the elephant wins every time. So, you know, I don't know. And how do we relate these things to plexus? It might be that, again, people think I need better health. I want to feel better. But their conscious thought, in my opinion, and you guys can tell me if you think that this is the same, just can't either justify spending money, even though they might spend it on other things, but just spending money on this particular thing. They might not be able to justify the fact that it's MLM. They might not be able to justify the fact that it's you and not a celebrity. So there's a lot of those either past experiences that are feeding into it, non-conscious things that people may not even realize are driving their decision. And that's kind of the battle I think that we're facing. So we have to figure out how to appeal to the rider and kind of help them to steer that elephant. So there are 6 key concepts we'll go over really quick that are, I think, some of the big ones that lead into this. The first one being choice architecture. There was a really cute video. Well, I'll explain. Choice architecture is the design of the environments in which people make choices. It means that how you present choices to someone matters. The way options are presented makes a difference in what we select. So choice architecture always exists and is a fundamental and central part of behavioral economics. So this is probably the one that we spend the most time on, at least in our presentations. This was like 120 some slides, and I've tried to whittle it down, so hopefully I'm not missing some things. There's a really cute video about kids and getting them to wash their hands. That is a perfect example of how you get people to make choices. But it's based on, and I wanted to show it to you, but it is 6 minutes, and I just feel like I don't want to use the time specifically to show too many videos, but that is one that I would love for you guys to see. And it utilizes these 6 sources of influence, and it explains them a little bit more. The book that it comes from is called Influencer: The New Science of Leading Change. So it's a YouTube video, and I can explain it to you, but little kids are putting together a puzzle and they're told, hey, a sick kid touched these things. So just know when you put this puzzle together, you'll have germs on your hand. Then they bring cupcakes in. And so the kids put the puzzle together, and then they blow a whistle. And all the kids, even after being told that, you could get sick, went and got a cupcake. Didn't do anything with the hand sanitizer that was on the shelf behind them. So I'll go back to this slide. So then that was a personal, I don't remember which one that was, but it was in the personal category here. So then the second thing they did was bring the hand sanitizer over, put it next to the puzzle. They could put the puzzle together, a different group of kids, and brought the cupcakes in. They still went for the cupcakes. Nobody used hand sanitizer, even after being told that. So that is where they changed the environment, they changed the environment. So that's number 6 here. And they had number 1 in play, still didn't make any change. Then they went, and there was one that had to do with peer pressure. And a girl said, hey, wash your hands, just randomly. And so a lot of the kids did, not all of them, but a lot of them did then go and wash their hands. So essentially what they were saying in the video is that you need at least 4, if not 6 of these different things in order to change, to get people to make decisions and change behavior. I know that's really high level and that's complicated, and I would love to be able to figure out how we can drill that down into, you know, our world, and how we can influence. But, you know, I just want to think of like different ways that we post, or different, what items we are posting. Can they incorporate 4 or even 6 of these factors? And, you know, maybe that's something that can be dug into more. Or when we're having conversations with people, you know, in a 3-way or something, how can you incorporate 4 to 6 of these concepts even in our conversations? It has to be like in every touch point, some of these things, in order to change people's behaviors. But if you understand it up front, that this is how people are responding and how people work, then it's a lot easier to then come up with some ideas. So I wish we could be in the ideation phase, but I don't know if we will get there. So the guiding principle here is design environments with multiple sources of influence that nudge new action, AKA making a decision for their health and signing up. So these were the things I came up with. How do you make the undesirable, spending money for health, desirable? How do you find strength in numbers? And how do we harness peer pressure, which is us, to get people to make change? One other little thing here is the number of choices matters. And I would love to know if like Plexus Corporate has like studied this stuff, or if they have someone on staff that works in, you know, behavioral economics at all, to see if, you know, some of the thoughts and the decisions that they have made, because I think it's good that we don't have a ton of choices, but at the same time, even the choices that we do have can be overwhelming, I think, for people. They're not really sure what to do, which I think is maybe why they did that quiz at the beginning when you're signing up, so that it kind of narrows down quickly and easily how people make those choices. I see things in chat, so if somebody has a question or anything wants to stop me, please feel free to stop me. I just can't read them right now. So this was a study on jam, and they saw a display table with 24 varieties of gourmet jam. Those who sampled the spreads received a coupon for $1 off any jam. On another day, shoppers saw a similar table, except that only 6 varieties of jam were on display. The large display attracted more interest than the small one, but when the time came to purchase, people who saw the large display were 1/10 as likely to buy as people who saw the small display. So other studies have confirmed that the result that more choice is not always better. As a variety of snacks, soft drinks, beers offered at convenience stores increases, for instance, sales volume and customer satisfaction decreases. Moreover, the same like retirement plans, these studies have often shown not only that excessive choice can produce choice paralysis, but also that it can reduce people's satisfaction with their decision, even if they made a good one. And so, let's see, I think that's probably, when constructing choices, remember to keep things simple as possible and not overwhelm people. The less thinking required, the more likely they will be to make a decision, let alone a good decision, and be satisfied with it in the end. So many studies have been done on this. This one I won't spend a little bit time on, but essentially choice architecture isn't about removing choices, but rather making it easier for people to make better decisions. So my thought was, like the quiz on the website is hopefully making it easier for people to make better decisions. But I also think us helping them through that and just kind of telling people, kind of taking the guessing game out of it and listening to their story, then telling people, oh, this is, I think, what you want, to me is better than, like just doing the quiz. And I think we know that, but that's just kind of reiterating. I think this behavior is actually, what we're doing is actually a good one, helping people through the websites and not getting hung up on it. So what we do in our sessions is frame how might we questions. And so, for you, as you're listening to this, if there are thoughts that come to mind that you want to write down, and maybe we can share it later, or put it in the chat. These were just a few ones that I came up with, and we're also sort of boilerplate from our presentation, because people are more similar than we realize. So whether it's Plexus, whether it's buying a car, whether it's buying insurance, these questions are all the same. So how do we design environments with multiple sources of influence so people see other people are doing it and want to follow suit? How do we keep choices to a minimum and not overload? How do we make the path to deciding to purchase much easier? And how do we reframe how we describe things? For instance, the choice overload, and making things simpler for them. Okay, there's a little bit more. How am I doing? Okay, 10 minutes. These other ones we can get through kind of quick. Loss aversion is a tendency for people to prefer avoiding losses to acquire equivalent gains. So there was a study that, and it's all about framing. So if we said, in this case, this is an example, if surgery is chosen, there's a 68% chance of patient living for more than 1 year, rather than framing, if surgery is chosen, there is 32% chance of patient dying by the end of 1 year. Both are the same result, but when framed in the less of a loss aversion, so not in the form of mortality, but in the form of survival, people are more likely to choose, in this case, surgery. So I was thinking, I think the biggest takeaway from this is that losses are much more motivating to people than gains. So again, in the Plexus world, I think there's a lot of money involved. Maybe this is also my frame of reference because I'm an accountant, but the pain of the loss of spending money is harder for people than the pleasure from a gain of feeling better. The money is more tangible. The gain, there isn't necessarily that like defined ultimate outcome. All they know is that they're putting out the money. So that's, to me, the loss aversion is what I see most. And I think in the things that the time that I have been working with Plexus, that the pain of the loss of having to make that decision and actually spend money is the barrier. So even knowing that they might feel better, that's not enough pleasure for them to actually make a decision to move forward. So we won't get into that. There's so many things that you can go through. So in this case, these are some how might we's that I thought of. How might we change people's minds about cheaper not always being better? How might we remind people that the loss of money in the moment is worth the value for the future? How might we frame things for those who are not that bad? So, if they see their discomfort as not that bad, to feel like this is worth it. And leverage experiences and associations that are salient and memorable. That's a boilerplate question, but still applicable. Another concept of behavioral economics is social norming. So we have McDonald's. This was interesting. The risk of an individual becoming obese increased by 57% if a friend became obese in that same time frame. So social the strong influence of our social network can be good or bad. And thankfully, a similarly strong effect was shown for friends losing weight. So as they see us doing that, then we're more apt actually to be able to change those around us if they see us doing it. There's lots of studies and information that I can give you on that. Social norms, changing the social norm with key influencers. So key people obviously can be famous people, but many times the most effective messenger can also be someone close to them, aka us. So it's critical to understand who people will respect and listen to and who influences them. So yeah, that's a lot of information, and just thinking about one person and how you might want to influence them. So these are some how might we's. I won't go through all of those. We can keep moving on. Priming is another concept, such as what will you have for lunch tomorrow? And there's a hamburger in the background and there's a salad. Now, everybody would rather have a salad because we want to be healthy, but we're talking about tomorrow. Today, let's see, here's the other side. We would choose chocolate. So where tomorrow you might say, or next week you might say, I want to eat fruit. But when the food choice becomes for the current day, 70% of people chose chocolate. So in the future, we all eat healthy and exercise every day, but today is always a different story. So this is called temporal discounting. It does have a name. People have a bias to the present and discount the future. So it kind of leads back to what I was saying, that I think it's very hard for people to imagine that healthy self. And so even though they say, I want to be healthy, I want to feel better, I want this, the decision that they actually make today is the one that's important. And that's the one that we fight against all the time, because of personal finances, or, all the different things that people tell us and why they don't buy today. So it's called temporal discounting. We all know about the smaller, larger plate, and you eat more even though you think you're eating less when it's larger. Then let's see, I'm just gonna go on a little bit. So this was an interesting one to me that I read. So like cars, the initial price a buyer sees often sets their frame of reference, even if the listed price is higher than what is legitimate. So anchored by this number, the buyer sees anything below that as being a good price, even if it's higher than what they might see offered somewhere else. So the anchoring principle means that you need to be very careful about what you put in front of users or customers, especially in the early stages of interactions, because that sets their frame of reference for everything that follows. So how might we, and this could be, I didn't write it down here, I don't think, but how might we figure out when the best time and the best way to present costs is, knowing that actually changes people's frame of reference. And that's when, as soon as they see that number, everything after that is, decisions are based on that. There's a concept 5 is the friction costs. People are often deterred by small roadblocks and committed to taking the easiest decision possible. I've seen that even with the website. If it's hard for people to get through the website to order on their own, which I think is why we have been ordering for people, helping people order, that can be a setback for people. Or so the total number of steps in a process, the more steps that there are in a process lead to decision fatigue. So, and the tendency to make poor decisions. There was something in here I wanted to touch on. Decision fatigue is not a new concept for marketing. So anyway, there's a lot of information in there, and I'm feeling like I'm running against time, which I am. It is now 8 o'clock. So there was one more principle in here called the peak end rule, which is essentially saying people remember the first experience and the last experience. So how we make sure that the last experience people have with us is a peak end moment. So a high moment. We talk about that a lot actually at work. So it's important for a couple of reasons. Focusing on these touch points means focusing on what they will remember, and therefore what will influence their behavior and experience the next time. And yeah, anyway, so that was a lot of information. I told you, cramming into a short amount of time, and that just kind of touches the surface of it. But I think what we can take away from this is people are irrational. People are complex. People are using their non-conscious, subconscious 95% of the time in making these decisions. And you're bumping up against past experiences. You're bumping up against, but it's not, but at the end of the day, they're all known things because people don't change. This is the same thing that marketers have been dealing with. So it is possible to understand and tweak some of the things we do to kind of overcome some of these things. The end.
Well, I thought that was fabulous, Beth, and I can already see us asking you to maybe do a deep dive on a couple of other topics for another training, like just a couple of the things you mentioned. One thing that really stuck out to me, and then I'm going to open it if anybody has any questions, and then we'll hop off here. A couple of things that really stuck out is one, the thing you said about choice, why you think people want tons of choices or they want to see everything we offer, but that actually hinders them when it comes to purchasing. Mm-hmm. I know Amy Morton and a couple other people, and even myself, we really try hard to only offer like 2 welcome packs, right? That's what I always say, like recommend just 2 welcome packs to your people. So then, because I feel like even if it's going to be more overwhelming if it's something they're unfamiliar with, like they didn't purchase because there were so many jams, and everybody knows what jams are and they got to taste them. And so I thought that was interesting. And then one thing I would love to dive a little bit deeper on, or maybe you have thoughts on it. You talked about the anchor price. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, because, like somebody just messaged me right before, my neighbor, and wanted to know how much it was. And so I always say, hey, it retails for $199, but my VIP customers get it for $129, blah, blah, blah. Does that go along with that theory of an anchor price and then anything they see below that, or should we not do that?
That would be, let me see.
Because it's almost like the sticker shock of the retail, like, whoa, $199. Oh, wait. I can get it for $129 as a VIP. Okay, that's better.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because they are seeing anything below that as being a good price. So yes, to help out in the initial thing, the place I struggle is then telling them I don't want to fool them that is going to be the price going forward. So then when I tell them that the next month it's going to be more expensive,
yeah,
that's when then I get a lot of, oh, I see. So that I don't know how to overcome that, at least not right now, but I think it's something worth talking about.
Yeah. Or even just lay it out and say, like, well, it retails for $199. You can get it now for $129 or $189. And then every order after that will be $159 or whatever it is. I don't know actually what it is. You think I would know.
I always use the term, this is like your first time customer pricing, because people are familiar with that. Like sometimes you'll get a discount if you're a first time customer for like haircut or just anything, just to get them aware that the price will change a little bit. But I try to understand what their goals are so that they can see what the value is before I even talk about the money.
Yeah.
But then I'm almost to the point where is she trying to avoid answering my question? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and sometimes I do too. I'll address it and I'll say, hey, yeah, I definitely want to talk about price, but we have a lot of options. So I need a little bit more information before I can quote something, or something like that. But I think this stirred up a lot of awesome things, Beth.
It stirs.
It did.
And
Well,
yeah.
and I know you couldn't.
And I want solutions. Like it's hard for me to not be like, okay, here's the answer. This is the solution. I'm not necessarily, like I said, I'm the accountant. So I don't have that strategy kind of brain, but my friend who I'm asking to do this, and I'd pay him even a little bit of money to sit with us. He might have a better frame of reference for that because he's been doing it for 18 years.
Yeah.
So
Beth, do you guys have a client that's close to what we do that used this strategy that you can, I don't know, a lot of times there's confidentiality issues, but is there something similar, like a presentation that they could show us where they use those concepts?
I will ask them. We don't have, however, I'm sorry, I'm thinking ahead of myself. We did actually do work for Amway a long time ago. So I could see if I could dig back and find some of the stuff that came from that. And that was so long ago, the confidentiality probably doesn't apply anymore. Yeah. So yeah, I could check into Amway and I can ask my friend if there's anything else that he might be able to suggest.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to stop the recording. That doesn't mean we